We all like to think of ourselves as pretty rational people, right? So why do we sometimes make the absolute strangest decisions? Well, in this explainer, we're going to get into exactly that.
You know this feeling. The movie is a total train wreck, you're bored out of your mind, and you could be doing literally anything else with your time. But you stay. Why do we do that? Turns out, that feeling is incredibly common.
See, you're not alone. It's not some unique personal flaw. In fact, you're being, well, predictably irrational. Your brain is running on this kind of default programming, and sometimes that programming has a few known glitches, mental shortcuts that actually have names.
And these shortcuts are what psychologists call cognitive biases. Think of them as rules of thumb your brain uses to get through the day without having to analyze every single tiny decision. It's a survival mechanism. But every now and then, they totally backfire. So let's pull back the curtain on 3 of the most powerful biases that secretly run our lives.
Okay, first up, let's talk about the weird, almost magical power that comes from simply owning something. It fundamentally changes how much we think an object is worth.
I want you to think about that beat-up coffee mug you use every morning, or that bookshelf you spent a whole weekend struggling to assemble, or maybe the house you grew up in, or that stack of old books you've had forever. To an outsider, they might not look like much, but to you, they feel kind of priceless, right? There is a really powerful psychological force at play here.
And that force has a name. It's called the endowment effect. It's this simple but profound idea that the second we own something, the second it becomes ours, its value just inflates in our minds. The mere fact of possession changes everything. This creates this huge gap in how we see things. You know, when you go to sell your old car, you're not just selling 4 wheels and an engine. You're selling all the road trips, the memories, the songs you blasted on the stereo. A buyer? They just see the mileage and the dent in the fender. You're selling an experience, they're buying an object. That difference is the endowment effect.
And this gets even crazier when we put our own effort into something. They actually call it the IKEA effect. Research shows that people value furniture they built themselves way more than identical pre-assembled pieces. You're not just the owner anymore, you're the creator. And all that sweat and maybe a little frustration makes the final product feel so much more valuable.
Now, our tendency to overvalue what we have is directly tied to our second bias. And this one is one of the most powerful motivators in all of human psychology: the absolute pain of losing something. This is loss aversion. And get this, psychologists have actually found that the sting of losing something feels about twice as powerful as the pleasure you get from gaining the exact same thing. Let that sink in. Our brains are wired to avoid a loss way more than they're wired to chase a win.
And this isn't just about money, it pops up everywhere. It's why an investor might hold on to a failing stock for way too long, because selling it would make that loss feel real. It's why a company keeps pouring money into a project that's clearly failing. And of course, marketers use this against us all the time. That limited time offer message isn't really about the joy of getting a deal, it's about triggering your fear of losing out on it.
The result of all this deep-seated fear of losing something can absolutely trap us. It can make us freeze up, unable to make a hard but necessary choice, whether that's about our money, our job, or even our relationships.
And this idea of being trapped leads us straight into our third and final bias. If loss aversion is all about fearing a future loss, this one is about being chained to the investments you've already made.
Welcome to the sunk cost fallacy. A sunk cost is any resource, time, money, effort that you've already spent and can never get back. It's gone. The fallacy part is when we let those unrecoverable costs dictate our future decisions, even when it makes zero logical sense.
So, let's circle all the way back to that terrible movie. The money for the ticket is gone whether you stay or leave. The only logical question to ask is, what's the best way to spend my next hour? But the sunk cost fallacy whispers in your ear, I have to get my money's worth. It's the exact same logic that keeps someone practicing a hobby they hate just because they paid for lessons, or makes us stuff ourselves at a buffet long after we're full.
So how do you break free from this trap? You have to consciously, deliberately ignore what you've already spent. You have to reframe the question. Instead of looking backward at what's gone, you have to ask, okay, from right here, right now, what choice leads to the best possible future?
The answer is always in the future costs and benefits, not the past.
So we've walked through these three major quirks of the human mind: the endowment effect, loss aversion, and the sunk cost fallacy. Let's put it all together and see them for what they really are: our hidden, predictable blind spots.
So there they are, your brain's big three shortcuts. The endowment effect, which makes you put a higher price tag on anything that's yours; loss aversion, which makes you fear losing way more than you enjoy winning; and the sunk cost fallacy, which keeps you chained to your past decisions. Three powerful forces quietly shaping your choices every single day.
But listen, here is the most important takeaway from all of this. The point isn't to feel bad about how your brain is wired, or to try and turn yourself into some kind of perfectly logical robot. That's impossible, and probably no fun. The real power, the real game changer, is just awareness. It's being able to pause just for a second and ask yourself, wait a minute, is one of those biases at play here?
So now you have this new lens, a new way to look at your own choices. And the real question is, which of these blind spots will you notice first? The next time you feel hesitant to let something go, or you find yourself sticking with a bad situation just because you've already put so much into it, will you recognize the mental shortcut that's pulling the strings? Because that awareness, that's what changes everything.